Hey everybody, and welcome back to Tenza Motorsports. Today we're going to be doing another discussion video. I've had a couple people talk to me and ask me a lot of questions about what they should be doing, what I've been doing when it comes to modifying cars. And obviously with the E46 chassis, there's so many different avenues, so many different places to start. And I'm going to be doing a few sit-down videos. This is one of them where we're going to go through some of the things that I either really liked or that I regret, or where you should start on your car. So obviously today we're gonna be doing some of the things that I regret. But before we get into it, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, like if you enjoy this type of content. Also make sure to check out our build list for this car down in the description below. Also make sure to follow us on Instagram, Tenza_Motorsports. So when it comes to regrets on this car, I don't necessarily have any regrets necessarily as things that I just wish I would have done either slightly different or right the first time. So I'm going to start with the tuning on this car. Now the Active Auto Works Supercharger kit has been absolutely fantastic. I still absolutely recommend it. This is the Stage 2, the centrifugal supercharger. I just ran the basic Active Auto Work tune and the car just never really ran right. It would lug and die and just things like that. And I've been getting it tuned through RevMatch, and that topic is explained in a different video in more detail, but I'm having them go over this car and just check everything out and make sure that it was tuned properly, and unfortunately it wasn't. And that's probably something I should have done years ago. When I first got the supercharger, I should have just sucked it up, spent some money, and gotten a real tune done. And I'm kind of glad that I did and didn't do that, because at the time I would have spent a bunch of money and there was still a lot of mystery behind the MS45 and 43, both MS45 and 43. This is a 43. It just hadn't quite been unlocked all the way. There was not anybody that was really doing any launch control. I'm sure there was some people, but it was just difficult to find all of the stuff that we're doing on this car back, 5 or 6 years ago. I should have done some custom tuning on it. So if you're doing any kind of forced induction, any E46 at all, go to RevMatch, start with them first. They should be able to basically do anything you want them to tune on your E46, early model BMWs, a lot of the 3 Series, 5 Series, that kind of stuff they'll do. So I regret not getting that done a long time ago, because my car is running so much better and we're not even done tuning it as of recording this video. The next thing that I want to talk about, I guess I shouldn't say that these are my regrets. They're more things I would have done differently, because nothing on this list I regret. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the rear fender flares. So the rear fender flares are just a cheap eBay rivet-on set of fender flares, and if I would have done it properly the way I wanted to, I would have done over fenders. They were more expensive. These ones were super cheap. And I think that my biggest downside with them is that I put on a set of wheels and tires that fit an M3, and so it was rubbing in the back, obviously, and I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't realize how much you actually have to cut out of the back of the car to get them not to rub. And I should have just done some over fenders and then just hacked that whole section out and got it all welded up and taken care of properly, and then I wouldn't have had to revisit it. Now it is fixed permanently now. I did do a video on that one as well, but that is something that if I could do it again, I would have just done rear over fenders instead of rear fender flares. The next thing that I want to talk about is the headers. I really do like the eBay headers. I haven't had them crack on me yet. A lot of people have had them fail and things like that, and these have been really good to me. The biggest downside to these headers, and I've mentioned this in previous videos as well, is that the flanges going to your mid pipe are offset. And obviously it's not that much, but it's like, I don't know, it was like probably close to 3/4 of an inch, which is quite a bit. So I took one of the flanges and actually trimmed it down before you got too thin. So I made sure that I didn't go too thin on it, but it still has a bit of an offset to it. Beyond that, the headers don't have the bungs and things in the right places, and you have them basically pointing straight at the firewall, or they were too close to each other, things like that. And it was essentially the company that used to make them didn't really do that much research. They just kind of slapped a set of headers together and they were selling them on eBay for around $100, which really was a good price. Even if you had to go through and do a bunch of modifications, it was a good price. If I had to do them now, the same company that made these headers actually work with RevMatch, who is the tuner for these cars now on the channel. They make headers that are for the 330, and there are different headers. So it's not just the same, you know, the 330 coupe and the 330 sedan and the 323s and the 328s, they're not all the same headers, and they're gonna need slightly different flange locations and orientations and the bungs and everything like that. And they've actually been in contact with them and went through and redesigned them and made sure that they actually fit for your car. And there's basically no modification anymore. You just kind of slap them on. I will have those linked in the description. Obviously, I don't need to do it on this car, and the other car has a set of S54 headers that somebody did custom on them. But if I was gonna be buying new headers today, I would make sure to grab some from RevMatch, and he does them in batches. So if you're looking for headers, you might want to get that taken care of like right now, because he gets them in batches and they sell out basically immediately. So yeah, that's what I would do if I had to redo my headers. The next thing I want to talk about is the rear bumper. Now, I really do like my M3 rear bumper. It is an M3 styled rear bumper. It's actually not the same as a standard M3. Looking at the black M3 that we have here in the shop, you can tell that they're not exactly the same rear bumper. And I like that about mine, but at the same time, because of the diffuser that I'm going to be building, I'm going to be taking that piece, that black piece that sits in the back that's shaped like that. That's basically a faux fuser. It's supposed to look like a diffuser, especially when you paint them black like this. And I'm going to be cutting that out, removing the exhaust, and having an exhaust that dumps around the axle, and then I'm going to be having a big diffuser. I've been talking about doing this for a long time. I just haven't got around to doing it. One, because I really like this, you know, this bumper, and I paid quite a bit of money for it at the time. I don't even know if you can get your hands on one anymore. But cutting it up like that just kind of is like, oh, I have a hard time doing it, but I need to get it done. So if I was redoing my bumper, I probably would just leave the stock bumper, because I'm gonna hack so much off of it and change so much of it and put that big diffuser on the back that I really don't think anybody would even notice that you don't have an M3 rear bumper, because everything that's M3 about my rear bumper is going to be cut out and removed. That's what I would do if I was going to redo my rear bumper. I wouldn't do it at all, and then that way when the diffuser comes, I'm not wasting money and I am not hacking up a nice bumper. Now, I'll be honest, this list was a little bit difficult because so many things on this car I absolutely love. I mean, there's very few things that I get in my car and I'm like, ugh, you know, the way this feels or the way that looks or anything like that. And the one honorable mention I'm going to talk about, and it's already been resolved, is the seats. I didn't buy these seats originally. I bought some cheap ones and I basically went through them because they were cheap and they fell apart. Then I bought another cheap set and they fell apart. And when I finally got these, I had a bit of buyer's remorse because they were so expensive, but once I really started to sit in them and drive the car, it was like just instant that went away. Because they don't flex as you accelerate, they're fixed back. And I would recommend fixed back for any race car. Even if you're doing a street car, I might recommend fixed back seats because they don't move. And the car felt faster because you're not flexing backwards. It's almost like putting solid motor mounts on your engine where it flexes and you get more power. It's almost like you weren't moving. I don't know how to explain it. It's very difficult to explain the way that these fixed back seats feel. So that's already been resolved. I love these seats. They're a Brid, I think they're a Vios 3. I don't think you can get these exact seats anymore. I really like them, and don't buy cheap seats. Just buy once, cry once. So the last thing on our list is going to be our steering joint. I like the one I've got. Again, most of the things on this list, I like the way I have it, but I would have done it different. I have a polyurethane flex disc, which basically sharpens it up a whole bunch, but it still has a little bit of flex in it, a little bit of give. I should have just done the solid one that like we put on the black M3, the Condor Speed Shop. They have one that no give, it's solid. When you turn the steering wheel, you're going directly to the rack. There's no flex, there's no play, nothing like that. And for a track car, that is definitely something you want to be as close to your front tires as possible. When you shrink the steering wheel down, you get closer to that shaft, which is closer to your power steering rack, which is closer to your wheels. And if you want to get even crazier, your power steering is going to go too. And that's one of the things. The only reason I have power steering on this car and the other one is because they haven't broken yet. So as soon as the power steering breaks or starts having issues, it's gone. The only reason it's still on this car is because it just hasn't broken yet. Yeah, I would change over to that Condor Speed Shop, the solid steering joint. I think that is just the way to go. The steering on that other car, even though I've got anti-roll bars and stiffer suspension, nicer suspension in the front, there's just something about the way that car feels. And that even has the stock steering wheel, the size of the steering wheel, and there's just a sharpness about it. And I cannot wait to get, like I just said, sharper, stiffer anti-roll bars, suspension, and then get a racing steering wheel that shrinks it down a little bit. That car's gonna feel absolutely phenomenal. It's making me wanna remove my steering joint, but I'm in the position right now where it's like, it's not bad, it's not hurting me to have it in there, it's not worn out, so it'd be just pulling something I spent money on out, and then what? I just put it in my box of parts forever. I would definitely have bought this Condor Speed Shop solid steering joint if I had to do it again. So anyways, those are 5 things that I regret or would have done different with my race car. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like and make sure you are subscribed to see more videos like this. I'm going to be doing a few more talking videos. The next couple will be talking about the first few things that you should be doing when building a street car, street E46, and the first few things you should be doing when you're building a race car 46. So stay tuned for that. Thanks everybody so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.
Bam!